Me, 46M, with my wife, 45M, married 26 years, reading an old diary led to a revelation. Yes, we were married very young and have 2 adult children who are out on their own. Typical HS sweetheart stuff here, each other's first, etc. I'll cut to the chase. When I was young, 22, I had an affair that lasted about 5 weeks. It was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I was a scumbag, I know it now and I knew it then. Wife caught on and I finally slapped sense into myself, broke things off and spent the next 24 years of my life trying to make up for it. I would go through bouts of guilt and sadness so bad that it would be crippling to me emotionally. I am not asking for sympathy for that, I deserved it and I know it. She of course at first was devastated and I hurt her more than anything. I will even cry to this day about hurting her like that. The look on her face when I finally admitted to the affair is something I will take to the grave with me. For the first 5 to 7 years after the affair we were married and still loved each other, but she obviously guarded her heart. Believe me, I understand why. And there would be days where she would cry over something that would remind her of it. As the years went on she didn't bring it up as much, but there wasn't a year go by where at least 2 to 3 times that it came across and she would be hurt by this. Some of it, by her own admission, was jealousy because I had been with someone else. Again, not once did I ever say anything about it other than to try and comfort her and apologize to her. At 20 years post the affair she said she wanted to be done with it and embarked on nights of long, and I mean long, discussions trying to deal with things that we should have probably dealt with years ago. This led to lots of painful talks. She wanted details, 20 years later, and the same thing over and over of why. I know that I ducked up, I know that what I did was unforgivable by most people, and I have always been so grateful that she forgave me. I honestly have done everything I can think of to be the husband she could be proud of and support her. We have had a good life together, and now that we are on our own we are kind of enjoying each other again like we haven't since we were both kids. This enjoyment has led to us re-exploring our youth and our dating time as teens. We have been looking at old photos of us and reading old love letters to each other. Yes, we are so old that we actually wrote letters on paper. We both kept journals as kids and we have been sharing them with each other. Hers are kind of silly and mine are downright embarrassing to read. However, this has led to a discovery. She has obviously forgotten that she wrote in that book well up into our marriage and past the affair. I don't know if I wasn't supposed to read this as she had given me the book to read a chapter of, but I didn't stop. I kind of skimmed over the book and found how unhappy she was right after we got married. How she really thought she made a mistake and found herself attracted to her old boss at work. Again, I don't fault her or even use that as justification for what I did. I skipped to after the affair and it was some heartbreaking stuff to read. I freely admit to sitting there bawling and racked with guilt again. I was feeling like poop until I came to the part where I read that she acted upon her attraction to her boss, who was like 15 years older than her at the time. He was also married. In other words, one night after work she screwed him in his office. Now the next part was her writing about the shame of doing it, how bad she felt, whether or not she should confess to me, and ultimately that she quit the next day. She told me she got laid off. I put the journal down shaking. This was 22 or so years ago. She did it within 2 months of me admitting to my affair. I am now a conflicted mess. Part of me says I have no right to feel anything about this and that I should just move on and pretend like I never saw it. But there is a part of me that is so very hurt that she not only allowed me to suffer for years with guilt, but that she played the "I've only ever been with you" card, which made my sadness even worse. I get that she felt guilty herself and she did not believe that I could have gotten over her being with someone else. I don't know what I'm looking for here. I feel betrayed, and not just in the fact she slept with another man, who would be getting close to 60 now, but the fact that she let me wallow in this despair for over 20 years when in fact she has done something very similar herself and has not had to endure any ramifications other than whatever she has put on herself. Which I admit it probably bad if was anything like mine. But for whatever reason it feels uneven. Should I even talk about this with her, or should I just chalk this up as another thing I deserved? Too long, didn't read, found out from reading journal that wife had a revenge affair 20 plus years ago, don't know what to do.
Hey guys, Please like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help me out, thanks.
You two may need a marriage counselor to sort this out. To be honest, we should have done this years ago. However, when we were young, therapy was not as popular as it is now, and frankly we didn't know anything about it. I wonder if it is too late for it now? Maybe it's worth looking into. I think you should ask yourself, if your wife had never caught on and your affair had ended naturally, if you would have taken it on yourself to confess. It was on purpose. Me, 46M, with my wife, 45M, married 26 years, reading an old diary led to a revelation. First of all, thank all of you who read my first post and commented either here or via messaging me. It honestly meant a lot to me. My original post was taken down because they said that I didn't ask a question. I sent them a question about what I wrote asking for guidance but didn't get any reply from them. So I hope they don't pull this one as well. Anyway, as a couple of you suspected, she left it on purpose knowing what I would find and read it. When I got home from work, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her journal in front of her. I was not at all sure what to say or do, so I just asked her how her day was. After a few pleasantries were exchanged, she came out and asked if I had read on in her journal after she left, and I admitted that I did. She asked me if I wanted to talk about it or anything else, and I told her that I wasn't sure what the right answer was. I felt like I wanted to talk, but that in the end I wasn't sure what I wanted to say, and that ultimately I did not want to cast aside the really truly great time that we have recently had together. She actually seemed very confused by my response and obviously thought that I didn't actually read everything. She asked me again if I read past when we had our difficulties, and I had to make a very split-second decision to either just pretend that I had no idea what she was talking about or come clean and risk once again having to dig all of this up. I said yes, I read everything. She started to tear up and ask me how I felt about it. I simply told her that obviously the news of her having romance with her old employer certainly was unsettling for me, but that I didn't want to ruin what we have been building over it. She said she really needed to talk about it with me and asked if I would agree to talking about it. We spent all night from about 6:30 p.m. until 5:30 a.m. talking, crying, hugging, and then ultimately sleeping. Hey, we're old. I can't stay up all night and then go to work on no sleep like when I was younger. I emphasized from the very beginning that no matter what we said going forward, that I wanted to be clear that I am as committed today to her and us as I was from when we were young, and that I only wanted us to get stronger together. She agreed and we went forward. At first I was apprehensive about trying to express feeling like I upset about her not telling me, but the longer we talked the more bold I guess I got. To spare you the length of this that I could go on and on about, basically our conversation highlights are as follows. I said that mostly my issue is that she allowed me to beat myself up for 2 decades, not only for cheating but for mistakenly believing that I had experienced something she had not. I said that I absolutely understood her reasoning for wanting to get even with me. I even said that what I did was far worse and that by no means was I comparing the two, but I felt like hiding this from me for over 20 years and allowing me to even make statements regarding her not ever being with anyone made me feel really bad. I don't even know how I feel about it, but I just know it hurts. Her reply to this was that she was deeply ashamed both for doing it and for being a hypocrite about it. She did remind me though that not once did she ever say anything about her not being with anyone else other than right after my cheating. She is right on that fact, she didn't. However, she never corrected me when I said it, and I said it plenty. She admitted that was wrong. I also had to admit that yes, even though it happened a lifetime ago and in the end did not mean anything to anyone, that ultimately I was not having some jealousy and anxiety issues over her having been with someone else. Also, I said that part of my problem was that in reading her journal she was very attracted to him prior to me even cheating, so she didn't go have a one-night stand with some random man. She willingly had romance with someone who she had developed feelings for. Again, I know I shouldn't have said that, but she medication it out of me. She asked me if I wanted to ask her anything about it. She said it was only fair because she demanded all of the details when I was confessing to everything. I said I had a few questions and she willingly and I believe honestly answered them. Basically she initiated it with him, and yes, it was simply because she felt that our marriage was a sham and she was angry. She just said that being angry at first was a turn on, but immediately afterwards she regretted it. It didn't make her feel better, in fact it made her feel far worse. She said she couldn't even go back in the next day to face him. She felt guilty for cheating herself, and she said she even felt more guilty because he was married with a little kid of his own, so she felt like she made him be a cheater as well. I asked her if she ever had any feelings for him, and she admitted that while working with him and being attracted to him she did develop what she called a crush, but that it all was peacefully deleted the moment they had romance. She said as illogical as it sounded, she actually loathed him afterwards. Now I have no idea if that part was for my benefit or if it was real. I didn't bother to ask. Also, I didn't ask about the romance. I mean, like, what was I going to expect her to say? No matter what, it was going to suck, so just best to let it go. Also, she said on her own she knew that if I thought she had been with someone else I would view her differently, and she did not want that. I feel a little off-put by that confession, but I also understand that sometimes men are idiots and guys my age tended to view things differently when we were younger. So while I hate it, I also understand it and will not hold it against her. As I thought, in her own way she was trying to protect me. Believe me, there was a ton more, but that was the main focus. She broke down several times and asked if I thought she was a working girl. I think I scored points when I said not only did I not think she was a working girl, I saw her as the mother to my children and the love of my life. She cried harder at that than at anything else. I'm not sure if it was from being upset or emotional or both. I asked her about doing marriage counseling and she thought it was a great idea. She is very much into planning out life's events and matters, so after this was over she immediately went to work researching area counselors. Today she told me we have our first appointment in 2 weeks. Also, I wanted to clear up a couple of things from my last post. Several have asked and I was probably a little too vague, so here it is. No, I didn't get caught red-handed, however my wife became suspicious and my guilt was getting to me, so I broke off with the other girl and then confessed everything to my wife. So you can view it either as I confessed or she caught me, and both would be partially right and partially wrong. Also, for the record, our beginning married life was not easy. I intentionally left out this little nugget. We had our first child already and we were living in poverty. She resented me and our marriage at the time, confirmed this BTW in her journal she wrote back then, and I just gave up. I am not excusing my actions, BTW, I am just saying that someone said I cheated in a perfectly happy marriage and that's not 100% accurate. No matter what, I love her, I have always loved her and I will love her until the day I die. She is the mother of my children and the future grandmother to our soon-to-be-born grandbaby. Damn, that sounds old typing that out. We are only going to get better. Thank you everybody. Too long, didn't read. She admitted that she wanted me to read the journal and find out. She wanted to end her silent guilt. We talked and we are going to go to marriage counseling and we will be stronger because of it. The things that you felt bad about saying or saying that you think that you shouldn't have said absolutely needed to be said. So don't feel bad about that. I think that there is a lot more that needs to come out between you two, namely the things that you were put off by that she said and all of your feelings over this whole revelation. I'm very glad that she agreed to go to counseling with you, as it will help with all of that. I wish the best for you both. I'm glad you're both going to marriage counseling, and I hope everything works out for the best. Thank you for your support. I honestly believe we will be fine. If I was peacefully deleted today, I have led a happy life, some bad sure, but who hasn't, and I want to grow older with her. My wife of 6 years, 34F, and who is a family therapist, cheated on me. 33M. We've been together for about 9 years total, we have a daughter, 2F, and she's pregnant with a son. To say I'm devastated would be the year's understatement. To me, the real insult is her profession. She works at a behavioral therapy clinic for couples and families. That means she helps people who are having issues in their marriages and families. As you could imagine, cheating is a common issue her patients have. Now it turns out she, herself, has been having an affair behind my back. On top of this, there were no problems or red flags leading up. I happened purely by accident, not suspicion, to find out. Romantic messages lit up the lock screen on her phone. I guess to her credit she admitted right away she had hooked up with the guy they were from. This was sometime in the summer. She said he comes to our area for work once a month or so. They met in a bar. He brought her back to his hotel, etc. No point in recounting everything in detail. I asked her to leave shortly after I found out, so I could have space to put my thoughts together. But now I feel empty. My family just fell apart, and it's her job to help keep other people's families from doing that. How do I understand this? She couldn't explain to me why she did it any more than I can to you. Too long, didn't read. I just found out my wife has been cheating on and off since the summer. It came out of nowhere. She always seemed happy. Don't know what to do. That is, well, ironic is the wrong word, but it's the one that comes to mind. Not to be that person, but, are you sure she's pregnant with your child? Would you feel comfortable talking to a therapist? This must be incredibly devastating, and you don't have to handle it alone. I would also understand if this negatively impacts your feeling about seeing a therapist.